Hey everyone. Today, we're diving into a topic that is so often and so deeply misunderstood: eating disorders. We're going to look past the surface level ideas about food and weight to really understand the hidden, devastating ripple effect they have on a person's entire life.
So, let's start with this one big question, right? What is the true cost of an eating disorder? This is the question that's going to guide us as we dig deeper, beyond just the visible symptoms, to uncover the consequences that touch literally every part of someone's world. And this is the whole key. The struggle with an eating disorder, it starts inside. It begins in the mind. But it absolutely never stays there. Think of it like dropping a stone into a still pond. What starts as a small internal disturbance creates these ripples that just get wider and more powerful, eventually affecting everything. That's the core idea we're going to unpack. Okay, let's dive right in, starting at ground zero, the origin point of that whole cascade, the psychological epicenter. This is where the illness really takes root and starts its destructive work. This slide, wow, it really gets to the heart of the constant internal war. It's not just one thing, it's this crushing, compounding weight. Just imagine for a second, living with a completely distorted image of yourself, constantly hounded by anxiety and obsessive thoughts. Then, pile on top of that depression and a relentless inner voice that never stops criticizing you. It creates this environment of intense shame, especially around something as basic as food. It is an exhausting 24/7 battle.
And that intense emotional strain, it directly messes with the brain's ability to just function. This isn't just about feeling bad, we're talking about actual cognitive impairment. The constant stress and often malnutrition, it literally starves the brain of the resources it needs. This can lead to slower thinking and a real, noticeable drop in your ability to make clear, confident decisions. Suddenly, simple daily tasks can feel absolutely monumental.
But of course, a battle this intense was never going to stay contained, right? The psychological distress inevitably starts to show up on the outside, and the very first place it strikes is the body.
So, let's move on to our second section and see how this whole thing builds, the body's breaking point. This is where all that mental anguish starts turning into very real, very severe health crises. And this table right here, it illustrates perfectly just how systemic the damage is. We're not talking about one or two little problems. This is a full-blown multi-system crisis. The cardiovascular system gets strained, which can lead to serious heart problems. Hormones are thrown into complete chaos, affecting everything from mood to metabolism. Bone health tanks, which raises the risk of fractures later in life. The immune system gets weaker, leaving the body wide open to illness. Literally no part of the body is safe from this.
And beyond those massive internal system failures, there's also a more immediate, visible toll. You start to see things like chronic dehydration and muscle cramps because the body is just struggling to function without the right fuel. Skin gets dry, hair and nails become brittle. And a consequence people often overlook is significant dental damage, which can be a direct result of the illness.
So we've watched the impact move from the mind to the body, but it doesn't stop there. The next ripple is even bigger as this deep personal health crisis starts to blow up a person's entire world, their relationships, their job, their finances, everything. Which brings us right to our third section, the external shockwaves. This is where that private struggle becomes a public one, affecting a person's connection to their community and their basic ability to function day to day. This slide is just so powerful because it lays out the two realities side by side. On one side, you've got a connected life, full of social hangouts and family getting along. But the illness just systematically replaces that with an isolated one. Social withdrawal becomes the new normal. That feeling of belonging gets replaced by a deep, painful disconnection. Family relationships get strained with tension and misunderstanding. And of course, your performance at work or school, it inevitably suffers. The illness actively pushes connection away. And then, on top of all that emotional and social pain, comes this huge financial burden. Treatment is incredibly expensive. Then there's often spending on things like special foods, diet pills, or supplements. The health issues we just talked about can lead to a loss of income, and with that, a loss of financial independence. It just adds this whole other layer of stress to an already impossible situation.
So now, let's pull all these different threads together. In our final section, we're going to connect all the pieces to see the complete, interconnected, and just devastating impact of this illness.
So this is it. This is the cascade of consequences we've been tracing this whole time. It all kicks off with that struggle in the mind. That internal turmoil then triggers the body's response, causing all that physical damage. Then, the combined health crisis leads to the social fallout and isolation. And when you add it all up, you see the total cost. It's a complete devastation of a person's well-being. And you can see how each step directly fuels the next one.
So the most crucial point, the single most important thing to take away from this explainer is this. An eating disorder is never, ever just about food. It's not about weight. It is a severe, complex illness with total life-altering consequences that spread through every single part of a person's life, their mind, their body, and their entire world.
And that really leaves us with a final question to think about. Now that we understand the full, devastating impact that goes so far beyond the surface, how can we change the conversation? How can we create more compassion, more understanding, and more effective support for people who are struggling? That's something for all of us to consider. Thank you so much for joining me today.